Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to
Ask the OGKG'S.
OGKG'S.
So, if you haven't tuned into our channel before, or if you don't know much about our project, Ask the OGKG is a part of our Crazy Girl project. That's crazy with a K. And we're all about busting stigma with humor and talking about the reality of mental health and mental illness, and just being completely vulnerable and honest with ourselves and with everyone else so that we can help the community and answer any questions that you may have about anything. So
we started this project after Courtney went through some tough times with her mental health. And even though I'm a family therapist for a long time, being her mom opened up new parts of me in terms of trying to understand what really helps with mental health and wellness. And so together we've kind of come through this very dark chapter, and we decided to do something to help other people, and that is the Crazy Girl Project. Yep. So thank you for joining us. Please reach out with any questions that you have.
I would love to stress. So we're going to talk. Today's topic is all about COVID-19, the coronavirus in pertaining to mental health and mental well-being. So I just wanted to plop this idea into your head that if you have any questions about anything related to this topic, or maybe not even this topic, don't feel shy, don't feel embarrassed. Ask us any questions. We're on Instagram and Facebook right now, and nobody's gonna know that it was you asking, but we just want to be able to answer any questions that you may have about this really important and pertinent issue.
Yeah. So like Courtney said, we're going to be talking about COVID-19. Courtney recently, 2 weeks ago, Wednesday, so that's 2.5 weeks ago, got really sick, and she had a fever and her teeth were chattering and she was vomiting and throwing up, and we're like, oh my God, she has this thing. And it was terrifying, and she didn't have any respiratory symptoms, so we didn't know for sure. And being that she was so sick for really 10 days, I wasn't going to take her to a testing facility because I really couldn't even get her off the toilet, to be honest. But she has come through this, and we are going to talk about what that experience was like. She's going to talk about that. And then we're going to talk about, the mental health aspects and what it's like to be in a house with each other for a very long time, trying to deal with all the changes that are going on in the world. So, Courtney, what was it like for you when you got sick?
Yeah, so when I got sick, it was just, I had never been sick to this extreme before, and it was really something that I had never been through. It was, I was so cold and the house was so warm apparently, and I was vomiting so much. And if you know me well, I know some of my friends are watching on Instagram right now, and you know that I can't deal with vomit at all. It's like phobia. It's my phobia. It's my big phobia. Yeah. So now that was a huge exposure to that topic. And that was happening, and I was freezing, and my whole body hurt, and I couldn't even walk up to my room, and it was just a really, really miserable experience. And I do, as much as I am saying this and talking about what I have been through with what we think is COVID-19, I just want to acknowledge that so many people have it so much worse than I did. I knew that it was not going to be the end of my life. I knew that I would make it out the other side because I'm young, I am healthy, I have no other pre-existing conditions. So I just want to say that when we are talking about this really sensitive and prominent issue in today's society, I just want us to all realize and think about the people who may be having it a lot worse than we or I or whoever it is may have. And I think just putting things in perspective is really important. But I did, throughout that really difficult time, notice that my mental illness was sort of being triggered again. I think that there were so many different aspects, whether it was me vomiting for the first time in 5 years and that bringing up a whole stream of emotions, or whether it was me not being able to satisfy some of my obsessions and compulsions because I couldn't even have the energy to get up. There were so many different things that really triggered old feelings in me and made it really, really difficult for me, not only physically, but also psychologically. It was really difficult. So I think that it's really important to realize that COVID-19 or for that sake, any physical illness and mental illness, they're going to coexist with each other, and they are going to make it, if you have both the physical illness and the mental illness, and not everyone does have the mental illness aspect of it, but if you do, and you probably do if you're tuning in, or you know someone who does suffer with mental illness, both of those things are going to make it harder to thrive or get better, because they're both sort of bouncing off of each other and hurting each other. So those were some things that I realized. And I know I have some friends who have been sick in the past, or some friends, family members who are currently sick with it, and them having mental illness throughout this makes it just that much harder. Yeah.
Well, I could see you weren't feeling well mentally, and it was tough because I'm taking care of you physically. I will sidebar and say that her dad and I had to have a conversation about, okay, if she's actually sick with this, what are we going to do? Are we going to wear masks? Are we going to isolate her? And ultimately we decided that if she had it, we probably all had it. And we're very close, Courtney and I, so when she's sick, I just bring her in my bed and we sleep together, and that's what we did during this time. And luckily, the rest of us did not get sick, and we're on the other side of it.
Yeah.
So, but I could see that when you were physically ill, I could see that look in your eyes, that depression look. And I asked you, "Are you okay?" And you're like, "Yeah." But then I think there was one time when you said, "I'm having some bad thoughts." So
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's really difficult when you are suffering physically with any weather, and I think it's important to realize that we are talking about COVID-19 because that's what is happening right now in today's world, and it's a really, really big issue, as we all know. But any kind of physical illness, it's really important to realize that it may bring up old feelings when it comes to your psychological aspect of it. So I can just honestly speak from the heart and say that when I was in bed and shivering and vomiting and couldn't move my body because it hurt so much, it really did bring up some old suicide thoughts. And I just sometimes, and I know that this is a very common thing to have, is when you feel like there's no escape from what you're feeling, or there's no way out of what you're going through. It's really common for people who have had suicide thoughts in the past, or any kind of anxiety or depression, and the suicidality is just an extreme of the depression aspect of it. But it's important to realize that those are just thoughts of you wanting to escape something, and it's not actually you sitting there and being like, it could be, and that's when you really need to reach out to a friend, a family member, or your therapist. But most of the time it's just a way, it's a way of getting out of the situation that you're currently in
your mind.
In your mind, absolutely. And so that happened to me because I just wanted to be done with the situation. I wanted to be out of it, and in my head, I really felt like the only way out of it is like, I have to kill myself. And of course I had, not of course, I take that back. I had thankfully no plans or no actions that went along with those thoughts. But I think it's really important to realize that so many people in the world right now, when they're trapped in their home, even if they're not sick, just the simple fact that I am in my home, I can't go anywhere, I am having the same routine, yep, I'm trapped, and all of those things combined can make you feel like I'm very depressed, or I really need to get out of this in some way.
It can trigger whatever that is, whatever your pattern is, the anxiety, whether it's worrying about germs, or, the real fear of, okay, how do I get food? Or, I have a family member who's really ill and I'm helpless. So those are real feelings, and those are real challenges. And so I guess the whole message here is taking care of your physical health and your mental health as best as possible is what needs to happen. And whatever way your thoughts or feelings may present themselves, I don't want you to feel ashamed or that there's something really wrong with you, because our head can take us to very interesting and strange places. It's important to know that just because you have a thought doesn't mean it's true. And how do we interact with our thoughts, and how do we practice self-care, and how do we take care of ourselves in relationships And these are just all the questions that I think are so timely right now for all of us. All of us are experiencing this.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to look for questions. And is there any other aspect, I don't want to interrupt you, that you want to address?
Yeah, I think something really important to realize, and if I honestly am not sure if I mentioned it before, but my mom just said something that sparked something in my head, and I think like it's this really tough time and this this coronavirus, and maybe it's the flu and maybe it's the stomach bug, but I think something important to know is that it is probably inevitable that it is going to spark up some psychological feelings, and they might not be good. They may be fine, and they may be like, I'm so grateful to be alive, and that although I'm suffering with all this, I'm so glad that like I am still able to breathe and talk and whatever it may be. But I think if you're watching this and you have any form of OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, which I actually do have as well, I think it's important to realize that the germs are there, and it's gonna happen, and and there's so many different aspects of this, but I just want you all to know that like everything is okay, and I love this little saying, like everything is okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end. And I think like I honestly was saying that to myself when I was sick, because I think that's really important to realize that like everything is probably going to be okay. And if it's not, then it's going to be okay in time in one way or another. And I have a dear friend right now whose father is in the ICU on a ventilator with this awful virus. And I just want to squeeze her and hug her and tell her that like whatever happens, like life is going to keep happening and you are going to be okay in time. And all of those things are really important to remember. And I think it's just such a really, really sad time. And like, I can't even imagine someone, 19, 20 years old and their father, or if it's you who's in the hospital and you are the one who's like, life is on the line. I think it's really important to remember that like this, and if you're spiritual in any sense, if you're religious in any sense, life has its course and like everything happens for a reason. So maybe there's a reason that you're suffering right now, or that your family member is suffering. Maybe it's going to give you a greater appreciation for life. And I think that these are some important things to realize and remember in this really difficult time. So
you're making me cry. You've grown up so much, I do want to acknowledge all the real suffering that is happening, the people that have lost loved ones, the people that are scared, what our world is going through, and we are in this together, and we are here for each other. And I don't know if everything happens specifically for a reason, but I know that we can try and find the meaning and find a benefit out of the suffering that we go through, and maybe it makes us more compassionate, less judgmental, more willing to tell our stories or open our hearts or be real with each other. Because I'll tell you what, none of us are getting our hair done. Nobody's getting their eyelashes and their nails done. Nobody's thinking about like liposuction or elective surgery, because we've gotten to such a place where what really matters is what's in our face, and it gives us an opportunity to connect in different ways. And I hope that we will all take that opportunity.
Yeah, and I just want to say I really didn't mean to push my personal opinions on anyone, and like you really don't have to believe that everything is going to be okay, and you don't have to believe those things. But I think having some sort of, in from what I've realized, having some sort of basis in a spiritual or a religious or a
community
or anything, and just having some sort of connection to the earth and like life and what's happening, I think that helps really put things into perspective. So if you don't think that things are going to be okay in the end, don't think that. Like, you don't need to believe that. It's just something that has helped me along the way, and like I really don't mean to push my personal opinions on you. I have some questions from
let's take the questions.
Instagram. Okay, so I was doing so good with dealing my anxiety before the shutdown. Are there any suggestions to help alleviate the stress that is bringing me down? Love you guys. Love you too.
Oh, love you.
So you could answer that one.
Oh, let's see. I think this is for you. I think this is totally,
I think so. yes, like I mentioned before, like anxiety is going to be brought up during this time because you're in your house and you're not able to do maybe the typical activities that you do on a daily basis normally.
So what do you do for
Yeah,
your anxiety?
so what do I do for my anxiety? I think there's a few things. So first of all, exercise in any form. Like, I don't like running. I actually have this strong passion that I don't like running. So I will either go on the treadmill if it's raining, or I'll take a hike, or I'll go on a bicycle ride, or I'll go on a walk with my family, and whatever it is, that actually physically releases endorphins or dopamine or something, but like it helps you physically. And it's a fact that any sort of exercise, whether it's a 5-minute walk to the end of your street and back or an hour-long hike, whatever you want to do, exercise helps. Also, doing something that you're passionate about. And the person who asked me this question actually inspires me with how passionate she is about her makeup, and she's a self-taught makeup artist, and she's freaking goals, but whatever. But I think participating in something that you're passionate about gives you a way to channel all of your emotions into something that you love. And I know I started playing the piano again because I'm a singer and I wanted to accompany myself.
I wanted you to play on this. I want people to, come on, you're really good.
But number 2, participating in something that you're passionate about. And I think number 3 would be like being productive in some way. So if you're a student, maybe that's doing your homework and participating in your online class, or if you have a job from home, it's going to work. If you're in your PJs, it's still going to work and doing what you have to do, so you're showing up and you're doing your best and you're letting go of the result. So I think that exercise, doing something you love, and being productive are all things that will probably help to alleviate your anxiety. And sometimes after all those things are done and you just want to lay on your couch, lay in bed and watch your favorite show, do it. Or cry, or talk to people, FaceTime with your friends, whatever it is. You do you, and you do what makes you happy. But I think also making sure that you're being at least a little productive, maybe 5 days a week, will help you to feel like, okay, I'm not just like sitting here and just doing what I love. I'm actually doing also what I have to do.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes doing what you have to do is doing what you love. Because I got to tell you, I love this Crazy Girl project. I love being part of a group. I love having something to connect with and to inspire me to take things to a different level. And it's actually inspired this project. So it's been wonderful.
What are some good ways to motivate me not to just sit on my phone all day? That's a good one.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Somebody posted on the Crazy Girl group the other day that I'm very impressed with this, that no matter what, they get up at a certain time, they put a little makeup on, even though I don't tend to wear makeup, they get dressed, they show up, they get themselves on a schedule or a routine. And in regular life, before all of this happened, we were on routines, right? We were on crazy routines. We got up, we got in the car, we went here, we did there, we went to this party, we went to that party. So we were almost on a moving sidewalk. So without that external motivator, how do we find the internal motivators? That's a really good question. It's not easy. I don't think there's any particular answer, but I think some kind of schedule and doing it anyway, which is a great anxiety tip, like I can't do this, or I won't be able to do that. And then the phrase, do it anyway, because it builds a sense of confidence. I think that those are some important tools.
Yeah, and I think that it's really like it's a normal, typical thing to be on your phone for X amount of times a day. I think, like, I know my weekly screen time report went up in hours over this quarantine, but don't beat yourself up over it. Like, it's okay. Like, whether you're scrolling through Instagram and looking at pictures, or you're on Pinterest, I feel like in one way or another, doing what makes you happy or makes you feel comfortable, it's not like really like you're wasting time or wasting away. I think it's like you're participating in something that you're passionate about. And maybe instead of, using that time on your phone to maybe look at what you would consider like a meaningless, thing of you're just scrolling and or
watching the news.
Yes.
Don't do that.
Maybe you are instead on your phone looking at
the Crazy Girl group.
or not. Maybe you're looking at Pinterest and you're getting ideas for your next painting, or you're on SoundCloud finding a new artist, but like that you're still on your phone and you're still, feeding your technology addiction, but you are doing it in a way that's maybe a little bit more productive, and maybe you won't feel as, sad about being on your phone so much. So
here's a question. What advice do you have for people who are feeling very alone during this quarantine season? What you are expressing is what so many people are feeling. I'm sorry if you are alone and you don't have your people with you. I know a lot of people that are in that situation. I would say find people to connect with. And now more than ever, we have the ability to do things remotely that we never had before. So, for example, I'm going to post about this tomorrow, but on the Crazy Girl group, I'm going to be starting some free support groups that people can come together in smaller little pods that they can maybe really get to know each other and open up and share some of the things they're going through and support each other in this process. And I'm also going to be announcing a speaker series, and I'm going to bring people on that can really talk to different areas of wellness and share some of their expertise. So I think connecting in some way with a community, especially online. My favorite yoga people, I'm sorry to talk so much, I know I can do that, but my yoga studio is all online now, and I can bring people to class that would not be able to go to class before. And I'm noticing that, like the Zoom meeting, the little boxes are getting bigger, the classes are filling up. So connect. Don't sit in the isolation. Reach out and don't be alone. You don't have to be alone.
Yeah, and I think adding on to that, I think it's really important to FaceTime one friend maybe once a day or maybe once every other day. And I think keeping up with the relationships that it was easier to keep up with the relationships when you were either at college or at high school or in your job or as an adult in the real world. And like all of these things, it was probably much easier to keep up with them and maintain those relationships when you were not quarantined. But also maybe taking this as an opportunity, like I'm sitting in my house all day, let me phone a friend. Let me call someone I love. Let me ask them how their day is going. Let me see what they're doing, because maybe what they're doing would inspire me to do something that I haven't even thought about before. So if you're feeling alone, just, doing, in DBT, they call it opposite action. So if you're feeling alone, calling someone or texting someone. I know over this quarantine season, I've reached out to old friends from like 6th grade and way back then that I never would have reached out to if I was in the hecticness of school, and if I was living at school, I probably wouldn't have reached out to these people. So just taking this as an opportunity, like I have so much free time, let me utilize that to feel more connected, or to feel more connected to my past or to my future or whatever it may be. But really opposite action is a really important thing. So
I love that. All right, we'll take one more question because we said that half an hour was probably too long, but we're coming up on that.
Yeah.
But we're going to keep doing this. And if you have ideas or suggestions or topics you'd like to talk about, things you'd like to say, let's keep the conversation going.
Message
sure.
our Crazy Girl Insta page, or say something on the Facebook page, and like we have these ideas of topics we want to discuss during these Ask the OGKG'S, but like we just want to talk about what you guys think is important and what you guys want to know more about. It's not about us, it's all about you and the community. And so if you have any ideas, don't hesitate to reach out and share what you think is important.
Put it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So last question would be, what activities have you been doing to stay busy during quarantine? So I think we have touched on a few of them throughout the video, but to just lay it out very blatantly, I think yoga, schoolwork, reading, music,
resting, cooking, sleeping more, moving more, loving more,
binge watching,
trying not to fight with each other. That's a whole nother, we'll
video.
We'll have a video on relationships and family relationships during tough times. But I think it's a combination of engaging yourself and letting yourself be. I can tell you that I feel better with more rest. I feel better down regulating as long as I don't let my anxiety about future tripping get in the way, and I can really be present in the now. And as long as we are healthy, because when she was sick, I was like not well. And if you are going through this and you have people you love that are not feeling well, our hearts go out to you. It's not easy, and certainly we're with you, but keep going, keep moving. It's the balance between letting yourself be and moving yourself forward, I think.
Absolutely. And I think I found this really awesome thing, and I wish I had screenshotted it or saved it, but on Instagram I found this amazing thing. I think the account is My Self Love Supply, so if you need any inspiration to not feel pessimistic or to participate more in self-care, I follow that account is what I'm saying. But also it's really important to rephrase the things you're thinking in some ways, if possible, and you don't force it, but just naturally let it happen. But instead of saying maybe like, I hate this quarantine and I'm stuck in my house, maybe say something like, this is a time where I have opportunities to participate in stuff I haven't been able to prior because I'm so busy, and I'm using this as like a message from the universe, something like that. So maybe just rephrasing. It's really, really easy to get negative during this time, is to get swept up in the negativity and to, be super down about this whole quarantine thing. But I think really just rephrasing the way you think and changing your thinking patterns to be something more positive and optimistic will really help this thing to go faster, to feel less, crushing and restricting, and I think it will help alleviate some anxiety and depression and OCD and trauma and all of these things. I think just changing your thought patterns and encouraging yourself to be a bit more positive. And I fall victim to this because it's really easy for me to be like, I hate this and I'm stuck in my house, but like not doing that and being like, I'm using this as an opportunity, or like this is a time where I get to relax when I normally don't get to. I think just encouraging yourself to try to think more optimistically is really important. So
yeah. Well, you've been wonderful, and the questions that you've asked and the participation, the love, the support, is wonderful. And we're going to just keep expanding this thing, and we're just going to keep talking about health and wellness, and we're going to be real. And thank you for being on the journey with us.
And I just want to say, like, as we are trying to grow this project, we would love help from you all. So if you're watching on Facebook and you have an Instagram account and you haven't followed our Instagram, it's crazy.girls, that's with an S. And if you're watching on our Instagram page and you're tuning in, which we are so thankful that you have joined us during this time, please do us a big favor and share our page with one or two of your friends. And it's not something that you need to know either of us to understand or to be involved in, and we are working on upping our social media presence to make it a bit more personal and more realistic. But if you share this page with one or two of your friends and your friends share it with one or two of your friends, this is going to grow and this is going to become the huge project that we want it to be. And just busting stigma with humor and adding positivity to your life and trying to be a happier person. These are all things that everyone in the world can relate to and can want to achieve. And please share us with your friends. That would be so meaningful to us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The whole point of the project was to bust stigma with humor and with connection. So us being the face of going, yeah, we've been through it. I was a crazy girl. She was, we're all crazy in our own way. So going from that craziness of darkness into a more empowered place and learning what really works. And that's what the speaker series is about. We're going to be bringing on some top-notch experts. We're actually kicking off the first episode probably next Saturday with Dr. Ed Barbarito. He's a gastroenterologist, and he's all about wellness and longevity and science of what really works in this process. We're going to bring on all kinds of experts. If you have an area of expertise, if you are a practitioner of any of the healing arts, please reach out to us. We'd love to bring you on. We'd love to have you share your knowledge and expertise, because the more we come together and we go from crazy to crazy empowered, the better we are, the better the world is. So that's what this is all about. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for tuning in. Spend a few minutes today either playing with your pet, watching a pet on Instagram. Animals are really great. They really make me happy. I'm sure they'll make you happy too. Thanks again for tuning in. Share us with your friends. We love you
guys.
all. Thank you.
Bye.